Hello everyone, my name is Blackwatch and welcome to another episode of How to Fix. As always in this series we take a look at the operators in Rainbow Six Siege who need a little bit more help than the other ones at getting by. So today we're going to be looking at Masaru Inatsu, also known as Echo. So this operator is one that was added at the same time as Hibana, who you'll know is a pretty good operator, but unfortunately he's only been seeing a 13.6% pick rate in the Pro League. Let's find out how to make him a bit more balanced. So Echo is a 3 armor 1 speed operator on the defending side. He is a member of the SAT CTU alongside Hibana, as previously mentioned, and has access to 2 primary weapons, the MP5 SD, which is my suggested primary weapon, and the Supernova shotgun, which is fairly middling, to be honest. I wouldn't recommend this one at all. His secondaries, on the other hand, definitely deserve a mention, and those are the Bearing 9 submachine gun and the P229 pistol. Now, the pistol is a pretty good pistol for what it is, but definitely worth bringing the SMG instead, because it's arguably the best secondary in the game. It can act as a primary on its own with its high capacity of 26 rounds in the magazine, and pretty decent damage rate considering how fast it fires, and relatively good accuracy. So Echo overall isn't a bad operator by any stretch of the imagination. He has relatively good weapons, and the MP5 is a bit of a headshot machine, but you would know that from playing Rook and Dog, and that's the issue. When he's not got his gadget Yokai, which is his unique gadget, it's a quad-rotor drone that he can drive around the map, and it gives him intel, and also provides him with the ability to concussive blast people, which causes their screens to go pretty wonky for a good 12 seconds. It's reduced by a lack of mobility, so if the person stays still then the effect is nowhere near as bad as it would be if they keep on moving. But it's still a pretty big deterrent for attacking operators when they're pushing into an objective to all of a sudden have this massive blast covering their face. So ultimately, Echo is an operator that functions in a similar way to Smoke, but as I say before, he becomes basically Rook but a little worse whenever you take out his drone. Now he only has one yokai drone, and that yokai drone has only the one bullet durability that every other gadget in the game has, unfortunately, apart from Frost's welcome mats. Now, the drone is very good for what it is, and it should be used quite conservatively, and that's part of the reason why a lot of people will lose the drone quite early on, is because they're being too aggressive. A lot like with Smoke's Babes, it needs to be saved towards the end of the round to really be effective, so losing it early on is the biggest thing that kills this character. So that's why I suggest initially one of the fixes could be to actually give his drone some durability. Maybe give it an extra shot worth of health, maybe give it a 3 shots worth of health, I don't know. It's a difficult gadget to kill because of its mobility at the moment, but giving it that extra speed would also make it even harder to kill. So some people might be a bit annoyed by this, but ultimately the drone is his one thing, and when he's lost that, he's stuck there with a pretty okay kit, but not too good. The SMG lacks in damage, and unfortunately that isn't really compensated by the addition of the integrated suppressor, which doesn't really mask the shots, to be honest. There's been a bug for a long time with Echo that leads to his MP5 sounding from across the map. You could be at spawn and you'd still hear his SMG firing off, and that's not very good for a suppressed weapon. But besides that, the bigger issue is that he needs a way to either keep his drone for longer, or have some way of making himself more viable without the drone. Now, making him more viable without the drone would probably be by buffing his SMG, but this still isn't a particularly good situation for him to be in. If you're just going to make him like Rook, but without the drone, what's the point? He's not really offering anything to the team once his drone's gone, so I still think that giving him durability would be the better suggestion. There are a couple of other things though that might be an alternative. We've seen with Twitch that giving the extra gadget also makes a hell of a lot of difference to someone like Echo, who relies so heavily upon his gadget surviving. So initially, she only had one shock drone, and that shock drone was fairly ineffective. It had a big light on it, it made a lot of noise, and it didn't have a lot of range in terms of the taser. Now, to overhaul her character and pretty big style increase her pick rate, to be honest, was to give her a second drone, and also to make that drone much more effective. So they took away the light, they took away the sound, and they made it much more effective at range. So the taser had an increased range, I'm not sure exactly how long, but it was much better than it was initially. Now, doing this for Echo, I don't think you should take away the sound cue, because I think it would be a bit too strong if you could not hear Echo's drone flying around. Ultimately, that's up to the Echo to strategically position the drone prior to an engagement for him to keep it alive. But maybe giving him a second drone would be enough to bring him up to that level where you could viably see him picked over the likes of Smoke in terms of the denial position, which is an interesting prospect because Smoke has for the longest time dominated the Pro League on the defensive side as the denial operator. He's very versatile, he's got a pretty strong kit, especially with his SMG11 with that incredibly high fire rate, and he's just generally a pretty solid guy. The edge he has over Echo is the fact that he can damage the operators they're trying to push in, rather than just concussing them and causing them to be a bit less effective in a firefight. But Echo has the advantage there that his drone will infinitely regenerate the blasts. It will cap at 3, but once it loses the first one, or the second one, or the third one, it will regenerate them until he's back to full capacity again, so he can use them almost infinitely. So giving him that second drone, I think we've seen it worked with Twitch, it could probably work with Echo as well. The last one, which is a bit of a fringe one, but one that I've heard people talk about before, is by giving him the ability to essentially transmit his drone's camera feed out to the team. So at the moment, much like with the shock drone, the camera feed on Echo's yokai drone is isolated to Echo himself. The team can't actually view it. Now, his drone can be used as a pretty good alternative to a black eye in some ways because it's completely maneuverable, it can be replaced at any time, and that kind of maneuverability, that kind of versatility would offer a pretty good intel gatherer to the friendly team. So I think it's a nice solution. It would give the friendlies a chance to utilise him even after he dies, because sometimes it's not always yokai that dies first, but it's Echo himself who gets taken out, and then his drone's left on the map, maybe in a good position, but only accessible by Echo himself. Now, the reason I've left this suggestion to the end is because it's not as useful for the team as a whole, because generally speaking, in a ranked situation, you're going to be talking to your teammates anyway. So in terms of using your drone, it's not going to matter too much. But ultimately, it's another change for the players who may be going to solo queue and just want to have a bit more fun with them. So I don't see anything wrong with introducing it. And some operators just prefer to see the intel themselves than having it told to them. So this is pretty much all my suggestions, guys. There was an example there of some really effective use of Echo, and that was to sit inside the room, hide myself, and wait for Hibana to come in. And ultimately, she was completely flustered. There was nothing she could really do in that situation but stand there and die. I waited for her to come close enough that she couldn't get away, but not too close that she would see me. And I was lucky that the drone didn't spot me in the first place, so I managed to boof her. She started to move away, but she was too deep into the room to really get any clearance from me. So I took her out. And in here, it's another good example of how to use Echo to your best advantage, and that's to check areas without having to actually go in yourself. So I knew the two were there, I knew I could push forward, and so I did. I push in, it's a little bit sketchy, I know that Ash is on the left side, she's just taken out the last man, and I managed to catch her here. I was pretty lucky. Now Buck pushes me, I use the tight cover to take him out, and then look at that Bearing 9 SMG, incredibly effective. Just melt him there. Went for a bit of BM with the drone, but found out it was too far away to really be worth it, so I just finished them off. So this is the fun part of Echo, is pulling off those plays and using that secondary that make him worth using. But I think giving him the extra drone, giving him a bit of durability, will make it just that bit more fun, and hopefully bring his pick rate up from that 13.6 to a more respectable pick rate, the likes of which Hibana's seeing. But obviously, Hibana's never going to be knocked off that pedestal. You don't come in with nearly 90% pick rate for nothing. So guys, I hope you enjoyed the video, hope you got something out of it. I will see you in the next one. Do svidania. Bye bye.